In the new book from the Harmon Brothers, From Poop to Gold, which is all about viral filmmaking, they pull back the curtain on their creative process and how they've intentionally been able to create viral commercials that have accumulatively clocked in
1.2 billion views.
So I'm Allan. I'm a Emmy Award-winning visual effects supervisor in Hollywood. I focus on helping creatives and digital artists level up their skills and their career and build their dream job. Let's get started. So in this video, I talk with Daniel Harmon, the creative director of Harmon Brothers, and Benton, the CEO, and we dig deep into their story as well as their creative process and how they were able to apply this formula to their videos. We also talk about their structure for approaching some of the less exciting topics like Squatty Potty and how they're able to make commercials around this to become a viral sensation. And a lot of the success that they've had through their career, how you can replicate that and apply those achievements to your own career too. First of all, if you find this video valuable, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I don't want you to miss out on all the valuable visual effects tutorials and masterclasses I'm going to be sharing regularly. So make sure to subscribe right now. Finally, as you watch this video, I want to make this a discussion. I really value what you have to say, so leave any comments about any valuable key insights that you have, questions, or other value that you get from this episode. So continue to post comment after comment as you go through this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well as questions, and I'll make sure to respond to everything that I see. So here's the interview with the Harmon Brothers.
My name is Daniel Harmon. I'm Chief Creative Officer at Harmon Brothers.
I'm Benton. I'm CEO of Harmon Brothers.
Awesome. And I thought it'd be really fun just to get a bit of insight, especially using your words as to what Harmon Brothers is and just briefly what you guys do, because I think obviously besides all the poop jokes, it might be better coming from you what you guys focus on.
Yeah, certainly. I think historically, advertisers have kind of had to choose between two different worlds. You have your traditional branding world, which is like your Nike, your Coca-Cola, Apple, etc. And then you have your direct response world, which is kind of like your infomercials, right? Snuggie, Slap Chop, those type of ads. And there's very little in between. There's very little mixing of those two worlds. Generally, if you work in one world, you kind of hate the other, or at least you criticize the other. And at Harmon Brothers, we see it very differently. We see benefits of both of those worlds that we can take advantage of and kind of leave behind the baggage of those worlds. And so we create ads that, in a direct response sort of way, drive an ROI for our clients, but they also build a brand and connect with the viewer at a very emotional level and give the viewer something to remember and something to talk about.
That's so cool. And again, I think like what you guys do is so brilliant. Like it's the perfect formula that you guys have managed to create and also continue to have a lot of success with. I know it's a much bigger story, but do you guys want to touch base just quickly on how you guys got started and more kind of like found that niche for yourself?
We usually start with Aura Brush. So my brothers, Neil and Jeffrey, were co-founders of Aura Brush, which is a tongue cleaner that helps cure bad breath. And they essentially, Jeffrey was in a marketing class at BYU. This guy named Dr. Bob came with this invention called an Aura Brush and was looking for help on how to market it. He'd gotten it into some like local stores and it just wasn't moving off the shelves at all. And so he was really desperate and went to a local marketing class at BYU where Jeffrey, my brother, was a student. And the conclusion after the study that the students came back with was, if you tried to sell this thing online, it's only like 7% of people that are going to be interested in it. And so don't even bother. And Jeffrey raised his hand and said, well, wait a minute, 7% of like 300 million people, like in the US, that's millions of people. Why not market to them? And Dr. Bob really loved that and grabbed Jeffrey aside after the class and asked him to start helping him market it. And Jeffrey pulled in Neil. They became co-founders of Aura Brush, and they ended up making they ended up making a video in order to try to increase conversion rates. Neil's a tech guy, and so he programs, and he was building what we now know as a funnel, but he was essentially building a landing page and different stuff to be able to sell the aura brush. And Jeffrey was trying to figure out different ways to A/B test into something that worked better. And he threw up a video that he found on YouTube called, that was about how to test if you have bad breath. And it showed how you can use a spoon to scrape your tongue and smell it and see if it's gross. And he put that up on the landing page. It didn't have anything to do with aura brush, but he put it on the landing page, and just by being there, it increased the conversion rate like 30%. And he's like, well, wait a minute. If we do something like this, but it actually promotes the aura brush, it's branded for the aura brush, man, that could be really effective. And so he writes up this script. He grabs his roommates, gets them involved. One to help make the script a lot funnier, and another one to help film it. And then grabs this guy from work that loved to rant, go on political rants at work, and said, "Hey, why don't you channel this passion towards this aura brush?" And so they then made this video really cheap and put it up on the website. And sure enough, it helped convert better. And then at that time, YouTube came out with their advertising system. Essentially tying into, and they've been bought out by Google, and tying in to Google's ad platform. And he started buying ads on YouTube for the aura brush ad, and it started getting millions of views and generating all these customers, and people started going to the store to actually get the aura brush. And so from that, they ended up getting into Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, all this national and international distribution. And then that's when the Poopery CEO, Susie Batiste, reached out to Jeffrey and said, "Hey, I want you to do a marketing campaign for us." And Jeffrey and Neil basically decided to, well, I should say, they ended up hiring me a little bit after kind of launching the aura brush. I was working out at agencies in Chicago. They ended up bringing me on as an art director at aura brush, and after a few years of that, was in 2013, they decided to resign and go off and do this Poopery project. And they needed a place to be able to put the campaign money, a business entity, and then like a 12 o'clock at night decision, they were like, well, let's just call it Harmon Brothers, and we'll change it later if we need to.
That's right.
And so very kind of an accidental sort of thing with the name. And then they had a place to be able to put the money and get the campaign started. I ended up actually leaving aura brush as well to go help with the campaign. And then as part of Jeffrey's decision to leave aura brush and do that, he'd actually been in contact with Benton, and who was in Washington, D.C. at the time. And he was working for Deloitte, the big consulting company out there. And Benton was like, "Yeah, let's do this thing. I'll do the ad buying and optimization, and let's go for it." Right?
Yeah, so that's where the actual agency was born, right? It was for that Poopery campaign, and it was Jeffrey, Neil, Daniel, and myself, and we did the Poopery campaign, and it blew up in unexpected ways. I can't remember which news outlet it was that covered it, but they cited the agency as Harmon Brothers.
I think it was either Ad Age or Ad Week. It was one of them.
So you're stuck at that point.
Yeah, we were stuck at that point. I mean, we were literally sitting at my brother Jeffrey's kitchen table, launching the campaign, all just on our laptops, while his wife would come in and bring us this like delicious Brazilian food. She's from Brazil, and just really scrappy. And yeah, that we were looking across the table from each other, being like, "Wait, creative agency at Harmon Brothers? Like, are we an agency? I guess we're an agency. Okay." It was that kind of a thought, and from there, we eventually from Poopery, Bobby Edwards, the CEO of Squatty Potty, ended up noticing us. And eventually, we ended up doing a campaign for them. But that's when it really exploded, right? That was when we kind of had figured out our model, and that was when we really jumped in both feet into Facebook at the same time as YouTube.
Yeah, it's when we proved that our model is repeatable.
Yeah.
We had done it on Orbrush and Poopery, but then with Squatty Potty, we turned it into a formula that we could repeat and drive, predictably consistent results that then snowballed into Purple and Fiberfix and Chatbooks,
Camp Chef, and just on down the road, where at the beginning, yes, we were kind of known a little bit as like the Poop Brothers, which is for shorthand. And then people started being to realize, oh, they can do this like for a mattress company, and they can do it for this duct tape alternative, and they can do it for this product for moms and for women, this photo book, and all of a sudden it was like, wow, this works for more than just bathroom humor. And so yeah, that's kind of where Harmon Brothers started.
No, that's so great. It's so brilliant because again, like I think that you're right. Usually people associate a lot of the products that you guys have kind of covered in the past. It's always been more infomercials. It's something that's quite boring and bland, and here you are bringing a whole creative process to it that makes people laugh, makes it memorable, makes it shareable, all the things that you want and typically wouldn't be doing for a product that might fix your breath or whatever it might be. So I think that's so brilliant. And so was it pretty much from the very beginning that you guys instantly scaled to a big consistent company that in terms of getting regular clients and having that success, or was it still a bit of a slow build up in the beginning?
No, yeah, not at all. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow, long, winding journey. And in fact, as part of that journey, we co-founded VidAngel, and that's a video streaming platform that allows viewers to apply filters to the content they're watching. So if they want to block out a swear word or a particularly violent scene or whatever it is, they have the flexibility to do that. But in the beginning, that was pretty rough sledding.
Yeah.
And there actually came a point where we had to make a decision where Jeff and Neil were going to stay focused on VidAngel, and Daniel and I were going to turn our focus to agency work. And at the time, we actually kind of thought that it would be temporary, and we would just, do some side work to keep food on the table and keep the lights on. And it kind of took off from there. That was around the time that Squatty Potty happened, and then several others after that.
But Benton was one of the first Uber drivers in Utah County for a while, trying to make ends meet. And I was doing contract work on the side with different graphic design and different writing projects and stuff, just to kind of get by. And so we had our rough patch for sure, even after Poopery, even after the success of that, where we didn't know exactly what we were doing. I think it was always in Benton's head that he wanted this to become like an agency and be a big repeatable thing. And I think I was even a little bit more hesitant on that, as opposed to like, oh, well, we'll just, maybe we'll just build this other company, VidAngel. But VidAngel never paid anybody in bills. So we had to think of something else. But anyway, yeah.
There's, we're all very passionate about only working on things that we feel very strongly about.
Yeah.
And the fear of going the agency route is that we would end up in a situation where we just have to take projects on to pay the bills, and we just have to do things because there's a check on the line. And none of us wanted to go down that road. And
that was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
And by the time we were able to basically put that fear to rest, I think, where we realized that we got to a place where we were in the driver's seat, right? Once Squatty Potty launched and enough leads started coming in that we could kind of pick and choose which clients we wanted to work with and only focus on the ones that we were passionate about and that we were really excited about, then that's when it really felt like we were onto something, at least for me.
Yeah. And we've been really, really fortunate to stay in that position. I mean, I think last year we had somewhere around the neighborhood of 1,200 inbound leads come in.
Yeah.
And of those, I think we chose 8 or 9 to work with.
That's great.
it allows us to kind of vet those really carefully and make sure that we're marketing products that we're passionately aligned with. And if it's not the type of thing where we're at home talking about it with our families and we're telling our friends about it at parties, if we're not just naturally, talking about it, then
if we're not evangelizing it, just like you said, just in our everyday speak, then why do we want to do it with a megaphone on the internet?
That's awesome. And how typically do you pick the projects that are right for you? I mean, are there, when most of them come in, like what are the things that you're looking for that really resonate?
Primarily, like we already said, we're looking first and foremost if it's something we believe in, that we're passionate about. That's kind of number one. Another thing is, like Benton said, we do this mixture of direct sales and of branding. And so a lot of what lends itself really well to that is a product or service that offers kind of a problem solution. And so that's another thing we look for. We look to see if they're differentiated in the marketplace. None of these are like, it doesn't have to tick every one of these boxes, right? But the more that it does, the more we're like, ooh, the more we get excited about it, right? But if it's something that's out in a red ocean, so to speak, right? If it's just another pair of jeans, then maybe we're not going to get as excited about it unless they have something really distinct to offer, or there's some sort of an opportunity there that makes sense for us. What are some other ones you can think of?
We want to make sure that things have been proven, at least to some degree.
That's right.
We call it's already nailed and now it's ready to scale. So oftentimes, fledgling startups are just getting going and they haven't quite figured out, what it is that they do and what it is that they offer. But they see us and they think that we're their silver bullet to success. And so we kind of have to temper that a little bit and say, hey, you've still got to prove that what you offer is awesome. You've got to show that customers love it. You've got to show that that there's a big enough market for what you're doing. And once you can kind of prove that you've nailed those first things, and now you're ready to really throw gasoline on the fire and really blow this thing up and make it huge, that's when we can step in and help. Because
we're not, for them at least, we're not a nail it company. We're a scale it company, right? We help them scale up. Those are big ones. Then just compatibility in working with their team, just seeing that the personality dynamics and that they have confidence in kind of handing creative control to us. That's kind of a big deal as well. And then also
and they have to be cool.
Yeah.
No working with jerks.
Yeah, that's right. But that's almost one and the same. But we don't want to work with jerks.
Well, that's a good point too. So I'm actually up in Portland, Oregon at the moment, but I've been based in LA forever working on film. And for you guys are in Idaho, right?
Utah. I'm from Idaho. My brothers and I are from Idaho originally, but we're in Utah.
That's where I got mixed up. Right. So I'm Australian, so I can just blame geography and all that. I think this is more like one of those those myth bubbles, like worth bursting. But like for you being based in Utah, opposed to what I was going to say is New York, Chicago, and LA, which typically for advertising is the more common cities. Like for you, do you find that there's any setbacks of being outside of those circles, or again, in this day and age, I find it wouldn't be very limiting at all to be based wherever you want to be, right?
Yeah. So I think there's pros and cons. I think one of, let's see, do you have an idea on this one?
Yeah. Let me speak to this. So early on, I kind of had this mindset where if we were to be successful, it was going to be in spite of our location. It was, we're almost at this disadvantage being in Provo, Utah. But I don't know when it was, roughly a year ago or so, I was speaking at a conference. It was an advertising conference in Lake Tahoe. And so this conference was full of people from, like you said, New York, San Francisco, and LA, right? It was, probably 95% of the people at the conference were from one of those places. And one of the evenings I was having dinner and sitting around the table, and I happened to be next to a gentleman who runs an ad agency out of Alabama, of all places. And he was already really familiar with our work, and he knew Squatty Potty and Poopery and Purple and everything that we had done. And he said to me something that's kind of stuck with me. He said, "You know what? You're really lucky to be in Provo, Utah." And I had never heard that before. It kind of caught me off guard, and I'm like, "Really?" And he went on to explain. He said, look around the room. Everyone here is from New York, LA, or San Francisco, and they're always going to have a harder time being able to connect with and speak to just your average American. And because we find ourselves in little old Provo, Utah, his argument was that we actually have a little bit of an advantage in being able to relate to the average person. I don't know how much that actually plays out in practice, right? But it was the first time that my mindset changed a little bit, and I started to look at Provo as, hey, maybe we're excelling, at least in part, because of where we're at instead of in spite of where we're at.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And in regards to the book, Chris Jones, I believe, recently collaborated with you guys on writing the book From Poop to Gold. And can you guys talk a little bit about what this book is and also who it's for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book project started, how long ago did it start? My gosh.
3 years.
Like 3 years ago, where we sat down and had shared some waffles with him and just talked about the possibility of writing a book that first we thought was going to be more like a history book for us, but then eventually got to where it became clear that it was going to be much more valuable to kind of communicate some of the special things that we have going on at Harmon Brothers that have contributed to our success. And so he became a fly on the wall for us.
I think we had just finished Squatty Potty, if I remember correctly. And so we had just kind of been on this wild roller coaster ride of, Poopery, then VidAngel, then Squatty Potty.
Had we done Purple? I think Purple was done.
Was it?
Uh-huh.
Was it at that point?
Yeah.
I just remember we were at a point where we all looked at each other and we were like, this needs to be documented. Like this, this ride that we're on is just otherworldly. And we've got to document this. And that's where the conversation with Chris started.
Yeah. So he would come into our offices before they were here at this building, where we were back in our little hole in the wall, and he would just kind of observe and see what was going on. He would go to our writing retreats with us. He would go on set, and he would come on the day before and of campaign launches and observe all this stuff, ask us questions, interview, and really compile kind of everything that was going on, even before we knew it was all going on or why it was all happening. And then we collaborated really closely with him to kind of finish up the book and distill it down to kind of 3 key principles that are that have contributed so much to our success, where the book focuses on the 3 C's of I'm not going to get these right in order, but creative processes, creative culture, and creative partnerships, right? And so much of it really boils down to that for us. And it was really, it was interesting going through a book writing process because somehow we naively thought that we would be able to get a really great book without putting it through our own rigorous creative process that we put our campaigns through. And then he was kind of asking for all the way along, but then we realized, in order for this to really come out the way it needs to, we need to get the right heads in there all together to kind of help him out. And we can't just, throw him out to sink or swim. He's going to need a little bit of guidance from us and some more rigorous feedback and stuff. And once we really applied our creative process to it, along with his brilliant writing and all the insights he'd gathered, we felt like we came out with something that's really valuable for people to pick up and just gain really concrete insights of what they can apply to culture in order to free up creative thinking and creative collaboration. And the way to approach partnerships, like it's so important to us that we don't go in and just enter into a partnership just because there's a check involved, right? That you've got we've already explained some of this, but some other criteria that you're going by, that you're not kind of losing your soul in the process or ending up in a relationship that you just hate and want to get out of and just are doing the bare minimum to get by. And so that's kind of what the book has come out of. And obviously with the title, with the cover of the unicorn on it, a lot of it does revolve around the Squatty Potty story, but it also goes into case studies with Purple and with Poopery and with Camp Chef and
it gives an inside look into all those.
Yeah.
We had a really interesting moment with it though, where of course we were so close to it throughout the whole entire process that honestly, as the book was kind of nearing completion, we had no idea if it was any good at all.
Yes.
We were like, I don't even know if this thing is a piece of crap or if it's actually a decent book. And so we got it in the hands of a handful of beta readers just to try to understand, like, is this thing any good?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember how many beta readers it was, but we had
like a dozen or so.
Yeah, we had a dozen or so people read it, and then we gave them a survey and had them answer some questions to try to understand, if this thing was any good. And one of the questions was, how likely would you be to share this with a friend? And I think it was on a scale of 1 to 10, and it came out to like an average of 9.3 or something like that. And that was kind of that moment where we looked at each other and we were like, okay,
oh, maybe this is
great.
Yeah. And of course, we have to look to people like you to give us an honest opinion of how it actually turned out.
Worst read ever. No, I love it. Over Christmas, I had the in-laws in town, so it was one of those things. It was a good escape from from dealing with them. But almost finished. But like everything I've been going through, it's been really great, and it's been really interesting knowing that I get to chat to you guys because I get to pick your brain about a lot of it. But that's what I mean. I think that it transcends just the advertising world. It's something that a lot of what you do is such critical knowledge that everyone can apply to any part of the business. Just the same way that you could say story and story brand is effective for anyone's business too. Like they're critical elements.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Some of that has been validated too. We made a little ad for the book, started pre-selling it. And I mean, we had thousands of copies in pre-sales before, we ever even shipped. And I think that video ad for the book now has close to 2 million views on it. So there's obviously a lot of need in the market or desire for something like this.
You're going to start selling, doing commercials for books pretty soon as well as everything else.
Yeah, who knows? That might be the next big thing.
So how's the book being received so far from everyone who's gotten a copy?
Really well. I mean, like Benton, I said, I think we were all surprised when we saw the reaction from the beta readers, and so far from everything everyone that's gotten their hands on a copy. We've had nothing but positive so far.
Yeah, admittedly we shipped late.
Yeah,
we were kind of embarrassed by that too because we started pre-sales, if I remember correctly, beginning of November. Thinking that we would be able to deliver the book in early December, but just being rookies at this and the first time going through the whole print process and everything, it ended up getting delayed by a few weeks. So I think copies actually just finally got in all the pre-sale people's hands. Was it end of last week?
Yeah, something like that.
And so the feedback hasn't rolled in mass yet.
Yeah.
But like Daniel said, the early indicators
seem promising.
Have been really strong. We're pretty excited for it.
And I guess for the clarity of your reader your listeners, the book's title, I don't know if you mentioned that, but it's From Poop to Gold: The Marketing Magic of Harmon Brothers, and they can find it on harmonbrothersbook.com that's where you look it up. But
No, that's great. I'll definitely link to it in the show notes as well. I'm sure everyone will love to get their hands on it because it's got a unicorn pooping rainbows in the cover. No, that's so cool. And like one of the things that you mentioned in there, which I thought was really brilliant, is just about your hiring process and more interviewing and what you typically look for in the people that you're interviewing, whether it is creative people or on the business side too. So do you mind talking just a little bit about that?
as far as the way we screen potential clients and partnerships.
No, he's talking about
Well,
employee.
no, not clients, but yeah, like employees. So typical like
Sorry.
candidates.
Yeah.
So to kind of hit that, we have to mention that one of the things that's really core to who we are and why we exist is that we have this mission, and we call our mission Share Better Stories. And everyone knows us for the work we've done in advertising. But share better stories, we feel like can be done in other industries as well. And we're interested in exploring some others. So for instance, education. The world of education is really lacking, particularly in education around video and marketing. And so we launched Harmon Brothers University because we want to change that. We want to make world-class online education so that there's a great place to go to learn how to do video and how to do marketing. But even beyond that, the world of entertainment, original content, movies, television, we feel like there's huge opportunities there to get into family-friendly content, which is a really underserved market. And so we have these big aspirations, these big long-term aspirations around what Share Better Stories means to us. And knowing that that's part of our DNA and knowing who we are and where we're going, it gives us a lot of clarity so that when we bring in potential candidates to screen them for a job, we can dig into a little bit of what makes that candidate tick. What is their life mission? What are their life goals? What are they trying to achieve? And what we're trying to identify is how well their individual life missions line up with our mission. Because when you get alignment at that level, using the terminology from Simon Sinek and start with why, right? It's when you can start with why at both the individual and the organizational level, that's when you get great alignment. And I think the example in the book, when Jake Christensen came on, I was in an interview with Jake, and I found this out later, but he was coming to Harmon Brothers planning to learn our tools and techniques so that he could then take that and go try to apply it to his own life's mission. But through the interview process, as we were both talking about our why, he had this realization that his life's mission would best be fulfilled inside of Harmon Brothers as opposed to having to learn and then go somewhere else. And so Jake and several other people actually just being part of Harmon Brothers, they feel like they're on the path to achieve their life's mission. And that's the type of alignment that we look for, because when you get that, holy smokes, the passion that you get from people is just out of this world.
Yeah.
That's so great because, again, having that unified vision that everyone gets it rather than going in, doing your work and, some people being passionate about it and others not. Because, again, my industry is very similar where if you don't give a shit about what you're doing, then it clearly shows because especially visual effects is such a brutal industry. Like you wouldn't do it and you wouldn't suffer through it unless you care about what you do and have that ownership. That's awesome. And with Harmon University, what inspired that, I guess? And do you guys want to talk a little bit about what that is and who it's for?
Sure. So again, as Benton mentioned, I think we had 1,200 incoming leads last year, and obviously we can't even, service a fraction of those. And so there's obviously a huge demand in the market for this type of a thing, and we can't supply all that demand. And part of that is not just we can't, it's just, we don't even necessarily want to, right? We want to maintain a certain level of quality and not just grow for growth's sake. And so we want to be able to provide tools and resources for people to be able to do this kind of marketing on their own level, be able to learn how to mix the best elements of great storytelling and branding,
character
development with the best elements of sales, and make something that they can drive, that has an engine of growth for their company, and all while building that brand. And so we basically, when we approached this with Harmon Brothers University, we started with our course, How to Write Ads That Sell. And so much of what we're known for is really great writing. There's obviously a lot more elements to that, but that's kind of where we started. And we said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's really do it. Let's not kind of hold back and kind of tease people with it. Let's just go all out. Let's open up our entire playbook. Let's hold absolutely nothing back. And so that's the way we've approached it from the beginning. And anything that we feel like we can communicate to our students that we've used to our advantage, that we've used in training our own writers or creative directors or whatever it might be, we're handing over all that information and constantly trying to develop different basically workbooks and practices and things like that that can help them get the hands-on application to be able to make a successful campaign. And so that's how we've been approaching it.
But I think the other thing that we've tried to do is we've tried to raise the bar for online education. Mm-hmm. I think you can look at 99% of the online education out there, and it's generally someone talking face to camera, with some PowerPoint slides that they cycle through an outline as they go or whatever. And we're looking at that and we're going, there's a better way to engage people, keep their attention, keep them focused. Let's integrate humor into it. Let's make it fun. Let's make it interactive. Let's not just use, these PowerPoint slides. Let's build in motion graphics and animations to help illustrate points and make things really clear. And then the other area where we're kind of going the opposite direction of the rest of the industry, most online education loves to brag about things like, oh, with this course, you're going to get 120 hours of this or that or whatever. And we look at that and we're like, that's crazy. No one has 120 hours to pay attention to these videos, right? And so in the same way we do with our ads, we actually really try to economize what's there down to what is essential and what you can take and put into action. And so our courses, they run several, they run a few hours in terms of video content, not hundreds of hours or dozens of hours like so many others. But when you watch them, you're going to be engaged. It's fast paced. It's moving. You're learning. You get what you need, and then you're done, and then you get to go apply it.
Basically, we've tried to apply the exact same mindset that we have to our campaigns to the courses within Harmon Brothers University, which is, how long does it need to be? With our, it's always exactly as long as it needs to be for the concept and the product or service, and no longer. And we're basically trying to apply the exact same thing. And then, how are we going to do it? Well, humor is kind of our signature thing, right? Well, let's do it really entertaining and with high production value and stuff, kind of like we do everything else. And that's the path we've gone down.
I love it. That's so cool. And I got one or two more questions, but the main one I'd love is if you can talk a little bit about your process, just more the general bird's eye view of, let's say when a project comes in all the way to completion. Obviously your initial meetings, maybe draft some ideas, pre-production, production, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So generally, when we partner up with a client, we start out with a deep dive of research into really getting to understand the market that they're in, their product or service that they're offering, how they're different, and really trying to get at the core of what makes that product great. And a lot of the times that boils down to what sold me on the product. And when you have that insight of a customer, it's super easy to think like a customer because you already are one. And so it gets you to kind of the core value proposition very quickly. And then we put together a team of writers and basically kind of set them all out on the same path of like, this is where we're headed. This is kind of the main value proposition. This is the problem we're trying to solve, and kind of get them all aligned there. And then we gather up once they've got their scripts together at a.
But they actually go independently.
Yeah, they go independently. Sorry, yeah, they go independently for a time, develop their scripts, and they might, develop them like getting input with friends and different people like that. But we're trying not to have the writers. I guess we're trying not to have them poison each other, right? We want them to come with really the point of having separate writers, and sometimes we're bringing one from LA or from Missouri or from Washington D.C. or from different parts of the United States, and obviously from Utah as well, and bringing them together, these different perspectives in order to have different approaches and different ideas. And then they come in with these scripts to a writing retreat, and then we kind of see what's the best concept to build off of, right? For this going forward. And then it's kind of a little bit of check your ego at the door kind of a scenario where we single in on what we feel like is the strongest concept for the sale and for the branding. And then we all write together and just make it the best we can. And one of the advantages of having lots of writers is you get cool jokes. You get a pull from all over the place, right? You get the best of each of these, and that's another advantage of kind of doing a long form ad is some of that.
One of the things that is kind of unique to us is that we actually pull the client into that process.
Right.
We hold a 2-day writing retreat where all the writers come together, the client comes together, and it's interesting because I'm the CEO of Harmon Brothers, but I'm hearing the scripts for the first time side by side as the client is hearing them for the first time. And so I'm not bringing the client in like already knowing in my head what we're going to be pitching the client. I'm alongside the client going through the exact same journey they are. And then we all work together to make the script the best possible thing that it can be. And when we walk away from those retreats, we always have perfect alignment between what we want and what the client wants, and we all are going in the right direction. And so we never have to go through that process of, kind of the traditional agency process of like, all right, let's pitch our client and convince them that we're right.
Yeah, you basically get everybody on the same team and get them working collaboratively. And when you solve the problem all together like that, then there's just natural buy-in from all parties, right? And then coming out of there, we have a script ready for production. And we go through the casting process, which can be kind of a headache sometimes. But obviously we're looking for people with comedic X factor. That's a big criteria for us, but also someone that has a really convincing and relatable ability to pitch a product. And well, I mean, you know all this process, Allan, as well as anybody does, but just, all the production stuff of like, okay, are there, special effects involved, and what kind of prep do we need to put into those, and what sets are we building out, and what locations do we need to scout, and all those types of things. And so our crew kind of accordions, right? It kind of scales up with different contractors and stuff in order to build up to the moment when we're going to film. And then we go and film, and then that's when the real work begins. After we're done filming, is the post-production process of editing and sending it through rounds and rounds of feedback of a brain trust. And for those of you that have read Creativity Inc.,
I was just going to mention that. Yeah,
you'll be very, very familiar with this concept of bringing together really great storytellers and people that just have a really good gut on creative. And it might not even be the same people every time at all, right? You'd be pulling in different people to have different perspectives on a given project. Obviously, if we have a product that we're marketing to moms or to women, then we're making sure I'm getting a really good balance of female input and moms and stuff that are able to have their voice in that and help us steer that in the right direction. And you go through that process of editing and showing it to people, and really the big thing for us is you don't want to ever get too precious about your work. It's really easy to get into a sunk cost fallacy of like, oh, I've put in all this time and done all this work, and here I show the edit to this person, and then they didn't even laugh at this joke, and be like, but I've got to hang on to it because we wrote it so well, and
You're invested.
Yeah, you're invested. When really, like, no, you can actually just cut it. If it's not essential to the sale, you can cut it. You can move on, and you can the piece is going to be better overall, right? And so we do several rounds of that in the edit, and we add in, lots of motion graphics, sound design. Occasionally, there's music involved. We don't rely on music a whole lot as a crutch. And that's kind of the process we get through, is just tons of just work to really put out the best product that we can. And then at the end of the day, once it's ready to launch, that's where a lot of the testing begins. Testing different variations of the video itself to see what hooks people the best at the beginning, and what call to action gets them to the website the best, and all these different types of things, where obviously we're optimizing for things like thumbnails and titles, and just all the way down through the funnel. And that's our process, I guess, at a high level. And then, but I think it's important to note, though, we're known for viral, right? That's one of the things that people come to us for. Oh, let's go to Harmon Brothers, let's get a viral video made. And one of the first things we tell our clients is you don't want to go for viral. Like, that's like catching lightning in a bottle. Very rare when you do it. It's equally shocking when it happens. It's not predictable. So let's not go down that route. Let's make it great enough that it doesn't have to be viral. What I mean by that is, if we make a video that can that helps the client sell their product well enough, then you can predictably spend $1 on Google or Facebook, and that you're getting more than $1 back. And then all of a sudden it's kind of its own little economic engine. It's like a flywheel, right? And then the shares will come, and the millions of views and all that stuff will come. But you're not just, anyone who tells you that they're just relying on just spitting it out there without having some sort of a distribution strategy behind it, that's like they're blowing smoke, I think, at this point.
That's great, man. It's such great advice. Where can people go to find out more about you?
So our website is harmonbrothers.com. That's where clients search us out, and business partnerships. HarmonBrothersUniversity.com for those that are looking for the education side of things, and to get into our playbook of everything we teach there, and then HarmonBrothersBook.com is where, from Poop to Gold, the marketing magic of Harmon Brothers, the book is sold. So.
Okay, I hope you found this episode valuable. If you want to check out the podcast, visit allanmckay.com right now. I've got hundreds of interviews with industry leaders, feature film directors, visual effects supervisors at ILM, Weta, Framestore, and many others, as well as focused episodes on subjects regarding negotiating salary, freelance, launching your own studio, working from home, and more. So check out allanmckay.com. And if you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel, as I'll be posting a lot more content frequently. So just click the subscribe button right now. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to you. What key takeaways did you get from this episode? Leave a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll make sure to respond. Okay, thanks for watching.